Hello everyone. As we have discussed two theories of punishment, that is retributive theory of punishment and the deterrent theory of punishment in our previous lectures. In this lecture or video series, we will study about the preventive theory of punishment, expiatory theory of punishment, and the reformative theory of punishment. So, come to the point that what we call the preventive theory of punishment. It is the another aspect of punishment is the prevention or the disablement. What does it mean? Here we are preventing the criminal to do the further crime by way of disablement. We are disabling the criminal to do the further crime. What does it mean? The offenders are disabled from repeating the crime by awarding the punishment. How it is done? What are the various methods that we are preventing the criminal, we are disabling the criminal so that he may not commit further crime in the society? So it is by way of punishment, and the methods are, we can take certain examples that how we are going to disable the criminals. The most effective way of disablement is the death. The most effective way of prevention is the death. We are preventing the criminal to do further crime in the society by awarding the death penalty. If the criminal would not exist in this world, then how he would commit the further crime in the society? Similarly, exile, we are sending him somewhere else or in the foreign territory or any territory which is under the control of the government of India, and so that he may not come back in the society. Another example of disablement is forfeiture of office. Suppose if any person who is having any office, and while discharging his duty, he is doing corruption. So how to prevent him? How to disable him? To prevent him, the most appropriate method, the most appropriate way is forfeiture office. If his office is forfeited, he has been thrown from his office, then definitely he cannot do corruption in the society. Similarly, cutting of hands, that is also the most effective way as prevalent in the Mughal period and also in the Gulf countries, that if any person is committing the offense of theft, then his hand to be chopped out or cut it down. Similarly, by putting the criminal in jail, that is also a kind of prevention, that is also a kind of disablement, but that is not the most effective way. The criminal is sent to the jail, and after some time, he is having hope that he would come back to the society, and again he will commit crime in the society. That is also a prevention, but it is not a most effective way of prevention of crime. The fear of punishment prevents the prospective law breaker from violating the law in the society. So he is having a fear in his mind that if he would commit any crime in the society, then definitely there would be a prevention, there would be a disablement, then he would suffer the punishment, and he would go to the jail, or there would be forfeiture of property, there would be exile, or there would be a death penalty. So therefore we call it a prevention, we call it disablement, because we are preventing the criminal to do further crime, we are disabling the criminal to do further crime in the society. Come to another aspect of preventive theory of punishment, that is object of preventive theory of punishment. The main object of punishment is protection of public by prevention of crime. So here we are preventing the criminal so that he may not commit crime in the society, and thereby we are protecting the public from the criminals. So here law focuses on the preliminary crime like conspiracy, abetment, attempt, etc. What does it mean? That means while preventing the criminal so that he may not commit further crime in the society, so if we would stop the criminal at the preliminary stage, at the very first stage, then definitely there would not be any crime. The preliminary stage of crimes may be conspiracy, abetment, or the attempt, or even the preparation is being prevented by the use of preventive theory of punishment. So here we are basically disabling the criminal so that he may not commit further crime in the society. Like hanging of murderer not only put fear in the minds of like-minded, but it is for the same reason that when we kill snake, they are out of the world. What does it mean? That when we are punishing the criminal, then like-minded are get afraid of it, afraid of punishment. And also, if we equate with when we are killing the snake, then it is out of the world, and therefore we are disabling the criminal to do further crime in the society. What happened in ancient society in ancient time, that prevention by cutting hand, as you know, it was the most effective way of prevention in case of theft. Similarly, the death penalty was also a most effective way of punishment in case of murder, treason, or repetition of crime. So these kinds of methods were available in Mughal period, and also it is existing today in Muslim world or in Gulf countries. Now, how India is looking towards the preventive theory of punishment, how we are applying the preventive theory of punishment, or we can say, what are the modern method of prevention? As we already discussed, that forfeiture of office, sending the criminal into jail, that is a kind of prevention. When the person committing corruption while discharging his duty in his office, then we must throw him from the office so that he may not commit further corruption in the office. That is a method of prevention, and that we call the forfeiture of office. Similarly, the suspension of licenses, for example, license of goods, license of services, so the criminal may not commit further crime in the society. Similarly, in case of contempt of court, if an advocate committing criminal contempt of court, then the most appropriate punishment is suspension of his license, suspension of his enrollment. Similarly, if any doctor is committing crime in the society, then his license to be suspended by the Medical Council of India. Similarly, if any person selling the goods and he is selling the adulterated food or adulterated goods, then his license of selling should be suspended. That is most effective way of prevention. Similarly, the preventive detention. You might have heard about the preventive detention law. If any criminal is expected to commit crime in the society, then before the commission of the crime, there is provision for preventive detention under the National Security Act, the NSA, APSPA, Armed Forces Special Power Act, UAPA, PSA, Public Safety Act. So these are the certain laws under which there is provision for the preventive detention. For example, the Farooq Abdullah, he was detained under the National Security Act so that he may not commit for the crime, or he may not arouse public uh, for his political mileage. So these kinds of political decision is being taken by the central government or state government so that they may prevent criminals, the prospective criminal, to do further crime in the society. Similarly, we have many provisions under CRPC, that is security for keeping peace in the society. Like we have section 133, we have section 144, we have section 107, we have section 115 of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1978. And here we are preventing the prospective criminals to do further crime in the society. So in case of danga, Section 144 is the most effective way so that more than five people cannot gather at one place. Hope you understood that what we call the preventive theory of punishment, that we are preventing the criminal to do further crime, we are disabling the criminal to do further crime in the society, and there are various criticism of the preventive theory of punishment. Let us discuss one by one, like committing crime in the psychological stress, or committing crime in the psychological distress. So if any criminal is committing crime in psychological stress or in grave and sudden provocation, then the punishment would have no use of it. If even though if we are punishing the criminal who had committed crime in psychological stress, then the punishment would have no use. Similarly, punishment may lead him to fearless and professional criminal. For example, if a criminal is punished again and again by the court of law and he's sent to the jail and he come back to the society and again he's committing crime in the society, then he would become a fearless criminal, a professional criminal, and therefore the preventive theory would have no use, the prevention would have no use. Similarly, if the reputation had already gone, if someone is punished and if his reputation had already gone, then he may become a professional criminal, he may become a fearless criminal. So these things should be taken into consideration while punishing the criminal, while punishing the wrongdoer, and therefore it is always advisable that the punishment should be in proportionate with the crime committed. If it is in disproportion, then definitely the criminal may become a professional criminal. Like, people are charged under COFEPOSA 1974, National Security Act 98, that is National NSA, UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act 1967, or the Public Safety Act PSA. So if the people are being charged under these sections and if they are wrongly being charged, then the preventive theory would have no impact, because they are being prevented. The object is that they are being prevented to do further crime in the society, but the government in power, the political party in power, they are preventing, they are detaining their opponent, they are detaining the opposition, they are detaining the opposition voices, critical voices under these laws. So it would enhance the crime in the society. Hope you might have understood that what we call the preventive theory of punishment. In our next video lecture, we will understand that what we call the expiatory theory of punishment and the reformative theory of punishment. Thank you. Thank you very much.